Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I want to talk about two cases. I want to talk about the Chow versus Cyrus Carmack case out of South Carolina. That Chow was the man that shot Carmack in the back for a bottle of water. Then the Karmelo Anthony and the Austin Metcalf case was the case of Karmelo stabbing Metcalf in the chest at a track meet. That was down in Texas. What prompted me to talk about these two cases, because I see how many people on social media, they start comparing states, like how this person get this in this state and how this. We have to understand that these states have their own laws. They govern differently. You know, some are kind of similar, but just one word can change everything. You know. And if you know me and you know my YouTube page, I talked about this type of stuff and just current events all the time. But I had stepped away from it for a while. But the only reason why I'm stepping up now and saying something, of course, because I want people to get understanding too. Because a lot of times, a lot of this stuff is led with emotions, and we have to talk to our children as well about how to handle themselves as well in public. And I just made a post about it. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody. I'm just speaking at this moment. And I just made a video post a week ago talking about you can't be the aggressor and then thinking that you're going to dictate how a situation is going to go, you know. So I spoke on that, and I had to stand on that as well. So I want to lead off with the case in South Carolina and the Chow and the Cyrus case. And so the stand your ground laws, and then you got the castle doctrine. Every state that recognized those two laws there, it's pretty much the same. The verbiage may be a little different, but I'm going to read the South Carolina stand your ground law first, and then I'll read the castle doctrine. So the South Carolina stand your ground law is one of the most important self-defense laws in the state. This law requires individuals the right to use force, including deadly force, without the duty to retreat when they are lawfully present in a place and face imminent threat. Remember that word, imminent threat. It has to be an imminent threat. Every state recognizes the imminent threat. It has to be an imminent threat. The stand your ground law eliminates the duty to retreat, which was a legal requirement under previous self-defense law. This duty requires individuals to retreat from a confrontation, if safely possible, before resorting to force. So I'm gonna stop right there. So that's the stand your ground law, which is whatever state recognizes it, which I know all the southern states do, it's going to be the same. Okay, the castle doctrine. This is again South Carolina's castle doctrine, but it's going to be the same pretty much for every state that recognizes the castle doctrine. South Carolina also follows the castle doctrine, which is a key aspect of self-defense law. The castle doctrine essentially states that a person's home is their castle, and they have the right to defend it from intruders. The Protection of Persons and Property Act extends the castle doctrine beyond the home to include vehicles and businesses. Under this doctrine, the law assumes that any person who forcibly enters your home, vehicle, or business intends to cause harm, allowing you to use deadly force against them without the requirement of proving the exact threat they pose. So, if somebody enters your home, your business, or trying to break in your car while you in it, they're trying to like carjack you or something, it's all I can say, have your way. So moving forward, like with Chow, like a lot of people were upset about that. I thought it was crazy too. You've seen the video, the young man didn't steal that bottle of water. Then they chased him outside. Chow and his son chased him 100 yards, and then said that he pointed a gun at him, so that's what caused him to shoot him in the back. But he's fleeing from you, right? So pretty much every state, you know, when it comes to firearms and everything like that, if somebody's running away from you, they're running away from you, you can't shoot them. They're fleeing. So you can't shoot them in the back and think you're gonna be like, yo, I was, you know what I'm saying, I was trying to defend myself. No, you can't do that. You know what I mean? So then you got, remember I said imminent threat or imminent danger. So that's why then he says, oh, he pointed a gun at him. So now that's like, oh, it's an imminent threat. Now you fear for your life. But you were chasing him, you know? At this point, he's out your store. He's out your store. It was a bottle of water, $1 bottle of water. He's out your store. You chased this young man, okay? So, okay. So he used that. So then you have the prior acts and propensity. This is how he got off. Chow got off, okay? The prior acts of propensity of South Carolina courts don't allow prosecution to bring up past incident reports simply to show bad character. This is also called rules of evidence. So they could not, the prosecution couldn't bring up the 2 past incidents where he had assaulted two other teenagers rather. They couldn't bring that up, and if they was able to bring that up, that would have got him. But South Carolina as a lawyer couldn't bring it up. Now, if he would have took the stand, from my understanding and reading, if Chow would have took the stand, that would have opened it up, and then they could have, you know, brought up those 2 prior incidents with 2 teenagers before Cyrus. So yeah, that's how he got off of that thing. Now, can it be retried or whatever? I'm like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just reading the laws and how these people find these little, I wouldn't even say it's not even a loophole. It's a state law. He was able to get by. Now, him using that, still with him saying the young man had a gun, you lied saying he had a gun and the young man didn't have a gun. You try to use that and justify why you shot him in the back. Now, that's for that family's legal team to turn it up and take it to the next level. You know what I mean? At that point, you know what I mean? Now they got to take it to the next level on that, because that was totally wrong all the way around the board. Like, you killed a young man for a bottle of water, and then he didn't even take it. I mean, y'all couldn't tell that this young man didn't steal the bottle of water. We looking at it on the camera and can see he put all 4 bottles back into your cooler, you know. And it probably because he felt how y'all was hawking him in the store. So he probably said, all right, man, I'm not spending my money in here, which we all should do. You know, it shouldn't take this incident right here where we should say, no, anytime your dollar ain't respected, anytime you feel like somebody's not respecting you and you come to patronize their business, walk out. Why spend your money there? Go somewhere else. All right, so now I want to talk about the Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf case out of Texas. Karmelo Anthony stabbed Austin in the chest at a track meet, but it was raining. He went under the tent. It wasn't the tent of his team. There was an opposing team. He went under the tent because it was raining. Supposedly, the kids from that team asked Karmelo 15 times to leave the tent. And he didn't leave, and I think they said the young man Karmelo then, after being pushed by Austin, he stabbed Metcalf in the chest with his knife. Now, Texas law is this, and this is the thing. Again, that's why it goes back to saying, when I said about being the aggressor, you can't be the aggressor and then claim self-defense. You can't claim both. It's got to be one or the other. It's either you're trying to defend yourself from somebody being the aggressor against you, but you can't say, unless it's a situation like they say, Texas law, like, okay, now maybe you was being aggressive, and then you say, okay, man, I'm done. Look, man, I don't want no problems. Look, you know what? I'm gonna get out of here. And you throw your hands up and you walking away. Now, you back down, but this person starts to come at you. Now you trying to defend yourself because you already told them, like, no, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm done. That's it. But if you keep coming and being the aggressor, then that's when. Now, I'm not saying Karmelo Anthony was the aggressor, don't get me wrong. I'm just telling you how these people they kind of looked at it, because they asked him to leave the tent. He didn't leave, right? So now, Texas law also has to be an imminent threat. Remember that. That's what every state, when it comes to standing your ground, when it comes to, standing your ground, it has to be an imminent threat. Castle doctrine, somebody enters your property, hey man, you gotta handle your business. But when you're talking like standing your ground, and you in a space like that, public like that, it has to be an imminent threat. Like, you have to feel like somebody's really threatening. You can't, in Texas, you can't use a weapon. Like, him using that knife and they were just having an argument, that don't fly. That's not standing your ground. You know what I'm saying? That's what they call proportionality. The response must match the level of threat. So, okay, if they would have started fighting, they fighting. Like, hands, fighting. But now you using this weapon, this is like a deadly weapon now. You stab them in the chest, that didn't match. Y'all were just arguing. So that's how they look at it. So that's how one of the ways, like, he lost. Okay, then the other way is, now, it wasn't a jury of peers. It wasn't a fair split jury. From my understanding, it was an all-white jury. So now, his legal team, maybe they could go back, they could get that turn, he could get retrialed off of that. I don't know. That's just how I'm seeing it. That's what can happen. You know what I mean? To get a fair trial, because that didn't seem like a fair trial. But what I could say from reading concerning self-defense, you can't, like, they asked him to leave. That was not his tent. That was not his team's tent. Many of them was asking him to leave. He did not leave. So now it could be kind of looked at, unsaid, it could be looked at as him being the aggressor in that situation. You understand? And the proportionality, the response didn't match the level of threat. He pushed them, then he stabbed them. That didn't match. Okay? So that's how, that's looked at. And then people can say, oh, wow, 35 years, that's a lot. Wow, he was just, yeah, but once again, that's their state. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's their state. That's the laws of their state. We can agree or not. That's their laws. But I say this, not just for the young kids, for the adults too. Don't be, and I said this before, look at my videos, don't be the aggressor and then think you're gonna dictate the situation, and then you wanna call foul if it don't go in your favor. It's okay, just back down, man. Even if you know, like, sometimes just back down. But now if somebody keep coming at you, now you have the right to defend yourself. But don't be the aggressor and then say you're trying to defend yourself. That's not gonna work. Like, no state where stand your ground, where it's gonna work. Now, we seen it work for many other people, you know what I'm saying? And that's another thing I don't want to get in. I seen Benjamin Crump post up another case about another kid that got 10 years in Texas, and then he compared Karmelo. See, we can't get into that stuff right there, because now you looking at, now we got to look at the legal teams, and from my understanding, maybe that one young kid that Ben Crump was trying to say in Texas that got 10 years, and I don't want to say that young man's name because I'm not talking about him, but Ben Crump, if you watching, you know what I'm talking about. The young kid that got 10 years, maybe his legal team, they knew what they was doing. You know what I mean? Karmelo Anthony, from my understanding, had a public pretender, as we call him. We call them public defenders. We used to call them public pretenders. So he had a public pretender. Like, they ain't, you know what I mean? The public pretenders and the prosecutor's office, they all on the same floor. You know what I mean? They just throwing cases back and forth at each other, seeing like who gonna take this case. They spending the bottle on cases, man. I'm gonna say it. So when you deal with a public defender, and then they going against the state, come on, these guys or women are going out drinking after cases, laughing. Sometimes they may be talking about cases, you know, when they ain't even supposed to. We done heard about that, and different cases got tossed out because of that type of stuff, where they could be going out drinking together and conversing about a certain case, you know, which they ain't supposed to do that, you know. But we're not gonna act like that didn't happen or don't happen. But I just want to say, like, look into the laws before we get upset. We could get upset, but we have to remember that every state has their own laws. And yeah, well, are you gonna like them? Is it gonna seem harsh? Yeah, but we gotta know them. You know the laws of the state. So therefore, then you know how to better defend yourself, because you don't want to get into the situation where now you in trouble and now you're trying to find out how to get out of it, trying to find the ways to get out of them troubles and finding the loopholes. Just know the laws of that state. And yes, it takes the people, if they don't like them, yes, it takes the people to get those laws overturned. You know what I mean? But know the laws of the states, man. Because that's how a lot of these people get off, and they find these loopholes in them. You know, even if it was the aggressor, they find these loopholes. They find one little thing. That's all it takes to get them out of that jam. You know what I mean? And yeah. But if you know it, if you know the laws of your state, you can better defend yourself. You'll better know how to defend yourself, how to move wiser. But when it comes to our children, we have to sit down, we have to teach them. Don't be the aggressor, because you're going to be looked at wrong. It's like, that's why anytime anyone get in trouble, even if it's a fight, even if it's a fist fight on the streets, you know, and the law enforcement got to come, the first thing they want to say is, who started it? Who threw the first hit? And the person that would lay it off, that's the aggressor. That's the person they're gonna throw in the back seat ASAP. They ain't even want to listen to the person who started it. Once they find out who started, they throw them in the back seat. Now they listening, you know, to the victim. You know what I mean? Now they listening to the victim. They listening to their side of the story, and they putting the case together. They putting the thing together. So when they get back to the station, now they writing the paperwork up. You know what I mean? Some of them may throw a little salt in there. You know what I mean? But that's how it goes. So we have to teach our kids about, you know, first of all, controlling their self, their anger, and it's okay to just back down in that situation. I understand some people say, but it was raining. Why they didn't? Okay, I get it. I guarantee you at this moment that young man would give anything to rewind that, and he just would have went and stood in the rain. You know what I'm saying? Would you stand in the rain versus having 35 years? Even though they said he'll get half of that, so 17 and a half years he could be up for parole, but I guarantee he wish he could get that time back, and he would, you know. We just have to talk to our kids and teach them about controlling their anger, controlling themselves, and just because they think it's right doesn't mean that it's right, you know. Maybe in that situation with that young man, he probably, Karmelo Anthony, he probably felt like, it's raining, man. Like, why I can't be under this tent? And I get it. But hey, man, go up under the bleachers or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, where was your team at anyway? You know what I mean? Why your team didn't have a tent? Okay, well, I would have tried to look for shelter elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? But checking yourselves and your attitude, and that goes for adults too. Check yourself, because that thing may not work out in your favor. You know, you got a lot of people going around doing a lot of things out here trying to throw rocks and hide hands. You know, it's not going to end good for nobody in that situation, because once again, if you're being the aggressor, you can't dictate the response, and the response may not work out in your favor totally. Both people can wind up damaged. You know, somebody may not be here, the other person, both lives can be deleted. You know, so we have to be smarter. No, that's not a word. We have to be smart about our decisions and how we approaching people. We have to be smart about that. And you can't stop throwing rocks and hide your hands. A lot of adults do that too. So these young kids, they see that from some of their parents. You know, they see that same behavior. You have adults out here that act like children, man. You know, and you gotta tighten up. We gotta tighten up. You know, I don't care what your race, nationality, or creed. If you're an adult and you acting like a child, you need to tighten up, because if you throwing your rock and hiding your hand, it may not work out in your favor. Maybe it will. But you also gotta understand this. You know that people can sue you for anything, pretty much. If you offending them, or if you trying to harm them, people can sue you. You know, you may not even, you could have, just by you saying you're gonna harm somebody, they can sue you. You know, for threatening them. You know what I mean? So yeah, and then you don't know what people's past, what they may have dealt with in the past that could be triggers for them. So we have to be mindful. People have to stop, and we have to talk to our children. You talk to your children about controlling themselves, letting them know what the laws are, letting them know the pros and cons to situations, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on them, and like I said, I'm not trying to be social media lawyer or any of that. It's just reading, and I so many times I get frustrated, even just when I look and I see like people start comparing states, and they're like, yeah, well, this what happened over here in Georgia, they didn't give that kid in Pennsylvania. You can't, because these states are different. And then you start to look at it, and when you start doing that, Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth state, so that, yeah, they on their own time. Understand that, you know what I mean? Their laws definitely not going to be the same as Georgia, and especially when it comes to firearms and things of that nature, the laws are totally different. Totally different, self-defense, standing your ground can be the same, but when you start getting the firearms in the mix, that changes a lot. And it changes a lot. So that's my time. I just wanted to step up and talk about that thing. Like I said, I'm not taking the sides and not trying to say, these kids were wrong, for what they did, or they were right for what they did. I'm just saying, before we get upset about things, look at the laws of that state. Then we have to step back and say, wow, what went wrong here? So the best thing we could do is talk to our children about the anger. The case in South Carolina, that was totally, wrong. And I think the young man, the way he dealt, he put the waters back and he left. Then when he noticed they trying to chase him, he's running. Now, if he didn't do nothing wrong, I would say he shouldn't have ran, because it was proven that he didn't do anything. You seen it on the camera. But, you know, he was young. He's a young kid. You know what I mean? This guy starts chasing after him. He's just running. You know, it's like a natural, you know, it's like a reflex. You know what I mean? A natural kind of response. Somebody starts running at you, you start running, you know? And he know he didn't do anything. But then I guarantee in the mix of him running, he's probably wondering, like, why is this guy chasing me? I didn't do anything. You know what I mean? And then the man shoot him in the back and lie and say that the young man pointed a gun at him. Come on now. You know, but that's something that guy Chow, you gotta live with, buddy. You gotta live with. You gotta live with. And yeah, but that's my time, folks. I'm out.